Hey guys, today we are making 5 of my favorite comforting casseroles. These are perfect for chilly evenings, weekend dinners with family or friends, or even to make ahead for a busy weeknight meal. They freeze really well and are the epitome of comfort food. We will be making my apple sausage mac and cheese, French onion chicken casserole, Reuben casserole, chicken Parmesan casserole, and classic shepherd's pie. We have a lot to cover, so let's go get started. So starting out with my apple sausage mac and cheese, I have 4 tablespoons of butter melted in my stock pot here. And I'm adding in a half a cup of diced onion, and we're just going to cook that until the onion is soft and translucent. And then I'm adding in 1 pound of sweet sausage with the casings removed. And we just want to cook that until it's nice and golden brown. And then I'm going to add in a 1/4 cup of flour and just stir that around. As well as about a tablespoon of mustard and a little sprinkle of salt. And then I'm going to pour in 1.5 cups of apple juice and 2 cups of chicken broth. And we just want to cook that until it's slightly thickened. And I also like to add in a little bit of fresh thyme and a sprinkle of garlic powder, but that is optional. And then we are going to add in 1 pound of Monterey Jack cheese and a half a pound of cheddar cheese in small batches, stirring until everything is nice and melted. So then we just want to take that off of the heat and add in a half a cup of sour cream. And then I have 1 pound of pasta shells that I boiled until they were al dente. And we just want to stir those in. And then we just want to pour this into a greased casserole dish. I would usually use a 13 by 9 inch dish, but because it was just for the 3 of us this time, I divided it into 2 smaller casserole dishes, and I popped one right in the freezer so we have a quick and easy dinner for another night. So once I have that in the casserole dishes, I have about 35 Ritz crackers that I am just going to crush up and crumble on top, as well as another little sprinkle of cheese, which is optional. And then I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees, and we just want to bake that for about 25 to 30 minutes or until it is nice and bubbly and melty. I absolutely love this mac and cheese, and if you have seen my apple video, which I will link down below, I love making savory dishes with apple. It's just such a great combination of that sweet appley flavor with the spiced sausage and cheddar cheese, and I love those crunchy buttery crackers on top. And as I said, this freezes really well. You can just pop it right in the freezer in the casserole dish and either pop it out and keep it in a bag, or just leave it in there with some saran wrap and aluminum foil, and then when you're ready to bake it, you can just bring it to room temperature and thaw it, and then bake it again for 25 to 30 minutes. With macaroni and cheese in the freezer, I don't like to cook it from frozen because the pasta tends to get a little bit overdone and it falls apart. So now let's move on to our French onion chicken casserole. So I have large onions here that I am just going to cut into thin slices. And then we're just going to set that aside. And I have 2 pounds of chicken breast cut into 1-inch cubes that I'm just going to season with salt and pepper, some garlic powder, and fresh thyme. And then I'm also going to add on some flour and cornstarch and give this a nice stir, and that's going to add a nice crust to our chicken. So then I have a skillet over medium-high heat with a little bit of olive oil, and we are just going to cook this chicken for about 3 to 4 minutes per side until they're nice and golden brown. And then we just want to remove those and set them aside. And to the same pan, I'm going to add in my onion, as well as a half a cup of white wine. And we just want to deglaze the pan here, scraping up all of those bits from the chicken. That's a lot of flavor there. And we just want to cover that with a lid and cook it for about 4 minutes. And then we want to remove the lid and cook it until there's minimal liquid left. Then we're going to add in 2 tablespoons of butter and melt that down. And we want to cook the onions until they are nice and golden and caramelized for about 10 minutes. And then I'm adding in about a teaspoon of flour and 1 1/4 cups of beef broth. And we just want to stir that and cook it until it becomes nice and thickened. So now while my onions were caramelizing, I worked on my toasts here. So I have 1 baguette that I sliced into 1/2-inch pieces, and I drizzled them with a little bit of olive oil, and then added 1 cup of Gruyere Swiss cheese blend to the tops of each of the toasts, and we just broiled that until they were nice and golden brown and melted. So then I have my greased casserole dish here, and I'm just placing half the toast in the bottom of the baking dish, and then I'm going to pour on half of the onion mixture, and then add all of the chicken, and then another cup of that cheese blend, the remaining onion mixture, and the remaining 1 cup of cheese. And then we just want to top that with the toasts. So then I have my oven preheated to 375 degrees, and we are going to cover it with foil and bake for about 20 minutes. And then we want to just remove the foil and bake that for another 5 to 10 minutes or until everything is nice and golden brown. We make this casserole a lot in the fall and winter. I love French onion soup. It is one of my favorites, but it's nice to have that addition of the chicken and the protein. It keeps you a little bit more full and makes it a well-rounded meal. It is just the best stick to your ribs comfort food. So now moving on to our Reuben Casserole. I have 10 slices of rye bread that I'm cutting into 1-inch cubes. And then in a bowl here, I have a 1/4 cup of melted butter, and to that I'm adding a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, 1 teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, and 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, and we just want to stir that and then toss the bread cubes in that mixture. And now I have my greased casserole dish here, and I'm adding in half of the bread and topping with 1 cup of corned beef diced up, or you could do pastrami, as well as some sauerkraut. Now you could do anywhere from 1 cup to 2 cups depending on how much you like sauerkraut, but I just want to add half of that on there. And then 1 cup of shredded Swiss cheese. And then we just want to repeat those layers with bread, beef, sauerkraut, and cheese. And then we are going to cover this with foil and bake it at 375 degrees for about 25 minutes, and then uncover it and bake another 15 minutes. And then we like to serve ours with a drizzle of Russian dressing and chopped up pickles. Grilled Reuben sandwiches have to be one of our all-time favorites. We actually used to make them in the restaurant that I worked at often, and it's something that my husband and I have always loved making together. But this casserole is a great way to feed a crowd. Instead of making a ton of grilled Reuben sandwiches, you get that super buttery, toasty bread with all of that rich corned beef and melty Swiss cheese. Okay, so now moving on to my chicken Parm casserole. So I have 1.5 pounds of cooked breaded chicken cutlets here that I am just going to dice up, as well as 2 cups of shredded mozzarella cheese and about 2 cups of marinara sauce. You will want more for the side. So now I have my greased casserole dish here, and you just want to add about 1 cup of the marinara sauce to the bottom. And then I'm adding on half of the chicken, and then half of the shredded mozzarella and half of the Parmesan cheese. And then we're just going to take about 1/2 cup of the marinara sauce and drizzle that on top. We just don't want to make this too wet or it'll get kind of soggy. And then we just want to repeat those layers with more chicken and cheese and sauce until it's all used up. And then I like to sprinkle some basil, oregano, and garlic powder on top. And what you want to do is bake this at 350 degrees for about 30 minutes, covered in foil. And then you want to take the foil off and bake that an additional 15 minutes. Now this is great for a crowd. This is actually something we made in catering all the time. It's perfect for parties because everything's chopped up, so you don't have to sit there with a fork and knife trying to cut it. But it's also really great because you can serve it with pasta on the side and rolls, so people can make sandwiches or have a little pasta dish. And of course, I like to sprinkle some fresh basil or parsley on top just for a little pop of color. And it's just a really great, fun way to eat chicken parm. And now last but certainly not least, let's move on to shepherd's pie. I do believe that I originally got this recipe from Gordon Ramsay. I will try and link it down below. I'm sure I've changed some things over the years, but anyway, so it's 2 pounds of ground beef or lamb. And I'm just cooking that in my skillet here, and to that I am adding in 3 cloves of garlic minced, as well as 1 large onion grated and 1 large carrot grated. And we just want to cook that until tender. And then we just want to add in 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce and 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, and just stir that all around and kind of cook the tomato paste for a minute. And then I'm also adding in some fresh thyme and rosemary, as well as some salt and pepper. And then we just want to add in about 1 cup of red wine and a half a cup of chicken broth, and you just want to cook that down until it's nice and thick, about 5 to 8 minutes. I also like to add in about 1 cup of frozen peas right at the end, just for a pop of color and freshness, but that is optional. And then we're just going to pour that in a large 9x13 casserole dish and set it aside. So now let's work on our mashed potato topping here. So I have 2 pounds of potatoes, and I'm actually doing my trick for quickly peeling the potatoes, where I just cut a thin slice in the skin around the center, boil them, and then shock them in ice water. I have a video on it that I'll link down below that goes into more detail, but you can just peel them the normal way, and then you just want to boil them, starting in cold water until they are nice and tender. So then we just want to mash them and add in some warm half and half and 4 tablespoons of butter, as well as 2 egg yolks, 3 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese, and salt and pepper. And I like to use a hand mixer to just beat it until it's nice and creamy. So then we just want to put that on top of our meat mixture and spread it out. And then I like to use a fork to make peaks on top. And then we just want to bake it at 400 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes, or until the potatoes are nice and golden and the mixture is bubbling. I really hope you enjoyed coming along with me and making 5 of my most comforting casserole dishes. At least where I live here in New England, it is the season for casseroles. It's getting really chilly outside, and these are perfect all the way through winter. The best part is that all of these casseroles are freezer friendly, so you can make them on the weekend, double it, and have an extra one in the freezer for a quick weeknight meal. It's just so comforting on a chilly evening where you can just pop it in the oven, set the timer, and walk away. If you give any of these recipes a try or just want to say hi, please be sure to leave me a comment. I really love hearing from you guys, and thank you so much as always for watching to the end, and we will see you in the next one. Bye!